Yes, thank you for having me. I am very honored to be here. My name is Amir, and I originally had
So great.
that was an excellent introduction too, Anders. Thank you. And I originally had a whole intro, but I've heard so many mind-blowing talks over the last 2 days, and I see so many interconnected themes, and it all kind of, to me, feeds into what I'm talking about. So I kind of want to recap, especially for people watching online, some of the really mind-blowing talks I've experienced and some of the speakers I've gotten to know. It's been fantastic. I felt like experiences have been a really central theme of these past 2 days, and Molly Crabapple's mind-blowing keynote was about how art or content can convey these really powerful experiences, and while doing that, empower not just the creator and the subjects, but the viewers as well. We've had talks, Aaron Moore, on how to craft really powerful experiences. There was an incredible panel discussion. You've seen the Matrix outside about the future of content and where is it going by Emily Best. We've had talks about how to craft incredible content. We had a whole session today, the art of storytelling. It was Brian Reed and Noni de la Pena, and they spoke about, how Noni, especially about how new technology will create such immersive experiences that the experience will feel like reality. We've also talked this past 2 days about sharing, discovery. I'll name check again. Evan Sandhouse gave a brilliant talk about sharing and discovering content. Kevin Alorca blew everyone's mind, what does it mean to participate in content? And so I feel that the key to all this, final name check, we had a whole talk as well about perception, Ed Cook, how perception shapes our human experience. And so we've had all these talks, rewatch them again, because perception shapes our experiences, which feed content that we share together, that we, allows us to experience these new realities. And so that's what my talk is about today. What happens when we allow machines, just like Nell said, right? Another name check. What happens when we allow machines to understand the world on the same capacity, the same levels as a human? What does that mean for the future of content, the future of experience, the future of sharing, the future of interaction? And what I'm going to argue today is that it creates an entirely new paradigm of what it means to experience content. So, start ground one here. What is perception? When I walk into a room, what's going on? What is my million whatever years of human evolution, my whole lifetime of experience built up in my brain? What does it mean when I walk into my friend's house? Okay, well, I know, hey, I've been here before. I was at a Christmas party here last year, and I know there's a Starbucks down the block. I know when I need to go to the bathroom, I can walk upstairs, first door on the left. I have a complete understanding of this environment. I don't even think about it. I know what color the wall is. I know how far away everything is. Machines and computers have none of that. They don't have the benefit of experience, evolution, nothing. Machines are currently pretty dumb. And right now, at best, a robot can stumble around and not bump into stuff. We all have location-based apps. You can know your GPS. But these apps don't know anything about the world they live in. So I woke up one night in the middle of the night, and I just had this, I couldn't sleep the rest of the night. I've been writing software for robots almost my whole life, and I just woke up and I was like, why can't robots understand the world the way humans do? And, wouldn't it change the world if we could? I can fulfill the dream of having my robot grab me a beer from the kitchen, It would be able to do all that. Why doesn't it exist? And that same night, the same thought occurred to me. It's like, hey, it can exist, right? We have all sorts of new technology coming out that will make this happen. We have sensors that can get biofeedback. And think about how these Fitbit sensors that can read your pulses. Think about how this has changed the human experience. People are tracking their behavior. People are sharing their fitness experiences online. It's a form of content. Think about your Nest Home thermostat. Allows you to, control your environment because you can now have sensory capabilities. Think of all the apps that this will now enable. So this was my thought when I woke up in the middle of the night. What if sensors, new generation sensors, could allow machines, just the way your Nest does, just the way your Fitbit does, why can't we empower machines to sense the world the same way humans do with a next generation sensor? And quick check, because this becomes important later, quick side note. You're all familiar with the Oculus Rift. You can go virtual skydiving outdoors. This is important for later, because this is how we experience the content. All right, back on track. We all know the Microsoft Kinect. It uses infrared lasers to see the world in 3D. Well, these are coming to a phone near you. So we actually helped Google develop a next generation phone that uses lasers to sense the world in 3 dimensions. And this is where our journey really begins here, in that we can use these 3D sensors to scan a room, just like in Nell's talk, and the 3D sensors of the phone sense the room in 3D. It basically gives depth perception, and from these depth perception images, we create 3D models, 3D maps of the environment. Here's one of our apartments. And as you can see, once it is 3D mapped with this sensor, we have an exact replica of the real world, 1-to-1, 1 meter in our models, 1 meter in the real world. You can run around it just like a video game. And my whole argument is, once we give this capability, this 3D map to machines, they will now be able to understand the world just like a human does. Now, I can tell my robot, hey, go to the kitchen. It knows where the kitchen is. And the reason it works is we can take this virtual world that we just created and we line it up to the real world. It fits right into place. All right, so far, so good? All right, good. It gets a little tricky. And this becomes a compass to let the machines understand where everything is. And once we have that in place, all the stuff Nell talked about before, machine learning, everything, we can now process our real world using machine learning techniques. Because the secret is your app, your mobile phone, your software does not understand physical reality. It lives in meat space, right? We have this physical world here that machines don't understand. But once we've digitized it in 3D, once we've processed it with all this machine learning stuff, now apps and robots can finally understand the real world. And what's going to happen is people will start scanning their living rooms, and you'll see, this is our friend's living room, in 5 minutes he scans it, perfect 3D model. Now his living room, a robot can know, hey, that's a table. An app can know, hey, there's a couch, there's a table. It knows the layout of the room. You can have an entire office building. Everyone in the office can now scan their building. And now your office teleconference robot can know, hey, 3 o'clock meeting coming. I know where to be at the meeting. I'll be right at the meeting, right on time. So what does this mean for the future of content? Well, what happens when we've built up a database? What happens when everyone's phone now becomes a 3D sensor that can bridge the gap from physical reality to virtual reality to the world where apps all live? What does that mean? What does it mean when we have a map of every place on Earth like that? Well, here's where we get to the interesting part, is it fundamentally changes what apps can do and how they interact with the world. So currently, content as we know it, apps as we know it, live inside your screen. Okay, we have games and movies and photos and viral videos and like fun toys. But once your app understands the world it lives in and the shape of the world, we create an entirely new type of content that can now live outside of your screen. A lot of people talk about the death of the screen, and this is what we think it's going to look like. Your app can now, it not only knows the shape of the world and what it is, your app just becomes a lens, like a little portal into a new dimension that never existed before. And so technology of the future is going to let us have depth perception, machine perception of the world that will create entirely new class of content. Content and experience will merge into one when your app is able to now interact with anything in the world. As you can see here, we have a game. You no longer are playing a game on your screen. The aliens are living in your apartment, hunting you down, and you have to chase them. And so now you have to run from the aliens, physically run through your house to avoid them. Your house becomes the jungle itself. And you can see, of course, here we pull back the curtain. The trick is all this lives in the virtual world, but when it's aligned to the real world, we've effectively allowed the machine to understand the reality. Dinosaurs will be chasing you through your own house. Nowhere is safe. And think about what this means in terms of how you share stories and create experience. You no longer are indirectly participating in your content. You are an active piece of this puzzle. You're there with King Kong. You're there being hunted by a velociraptor. The content of the future is fully immersive, fully interactive. When you're in your living room itself has now transformed into a musical instrument. Right? The software understands everything. We can map every piece of furniture to a musical object so that when you and your friends are hanging out, you can now collaboratively create musical experiences together just by, clicking around your room. I'll let you. So that's the future, is machines understanding the world is a completely new frontier, and it's a completely new paradigm. Content and experience mashed together in the sense that you are now experiencing content yourself. Just like in Noni's talk, experience becomes reality. When you're being chased by a giant dinosaur or a zombie through your house, you are being chased by the zombie in your house. When you're playing this with your friends, you're experiencing the shared hallucination together. When you're interacting with the world, it's not an indirect mode of interaction. You are actually interacting with these virtual elements that happen to live in your space. And so, short talk, but thank you for listening.